Hi, welcome back to Mission 7 Video Notes. This is video 3, and in it we're going to be talking about the spinal cord, the peripheral nervous system, and reflexes. So this is much shorter than the previous two videos, so don't worry about having another long one. First, though, this diagram, again, it's kind of squished, but is talking about the spinal cord. So remember that the spinal cord moves through the vertebrae. So this is a very large vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae. And remember that the vertebrae have holes. Remember that hole in the middle of it. And in the hole would be the spinal cord. So this is your spinal cord. You can see this is that part of the backbone that you feel when you run up and your hands up and down the back. And so this is the spinal cord that goes through the different vertebrae, and what protects the vertebrae protects that. So if we look at it straight this way, this little thing that you see right there, that's the same thing that you're seeing on your diagram. Looks kind of like a little butterfly, I guess you could say. I don't know, weird shape in the middle there. That's what you're seeing here. So when we look on the inside of the spinal cord, that's what you're going to see. And this is what's called, excuse me, gray matter, and the rest of this is white matter. So that's why you see that different color. But on the sides of the spinal cord, you have these yellow things. These are the nerves coming off of the spinal cord. These are nerves that will go to and from, or these are the nerves, sorry, that will go to and from the sense organs and the rest of your body. Remember, that's the peripheral nervous system. These are peripheral nerves that go to the periphery, the outside, and they bring part of it. If you look here, let's see if I can get, you notice there's two branches, one at the top. That's the same as this posterior root, and the one at the bottom is the anterior root. So really, this is what you're looking at here, these two divisions. So one portion of it goes to the sense organs, and the other one brings information back to the spinal cord. Because remember, these nerves communicate information from the outside, and they take it to the spinal cord, which then takes it up to the brain. Okay. And so here is what it looks like when you're standing up. It would be looking like this. So the posterior root is on the posterior side, which is your back. So this is, if you stand it up this way, it makes more sense to think about it this way. This bottom one, that's your anterior root. That's the one that's facing towards the anterior portion, anterior side of you when you're standing upright. So those are the two different roots of that. But the function of the spinal cord is given here. Transmits nerve impulses from the motor cortex of the brain to the body. So that's the motor part, the parts of your brain that are responsible for making you do different movements or to move different things, go from your brain down your spinal cord to the rest of your body. And then it transmits impulses coming in from the sense organs. So transmits nerve impulses from the sensory organs, your skin, your stretch receptors, your eyes, ears, nose, smelling, tasting, all of those things are coming from the body to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord nerves take it up into your brain so that you can understand it. And then it also helps coordinate reflexes. And we're going to look at that in the next video, or the next diagram, sorry. So here is your diagram of a spinal cord, the posterior root, which is on the back side, or dorsal root is also called. Then you've got your anterior root, which is the one on the top, on the front of you when you're standing up. This subdural cavity, that's what we mentioned, labeled in the brain, in the subarachnoid space. This is where all the spinal fluid, cerebral spinal fluid is traveling through there. And right down here, get this menu bar out of the way, you have the, you have the pia mater, the arachnoid mater, and the dura mater. These are the membranes that are in the brain. They're also in your spinal cord. So when these are inflamed, they will cause your nerves not to work as much. So that's why meningitis is very serious and very important that you get your shot for that. Okay, the next picture you have then is this reflex arc, is what it's called. So how does the spinal cord coordinate reflexes? Well, this is a picture. If you've ever gone to the doctor and they're testing your reflexes, they would use this instrument. It's called a percussion hammer, and they will gently hit your tendon here that is attached to this muscle. Do you remember what this muscle is called? It's the front of your leg. Yes, that's your quadriceps muscle. So this tendon, remember tendons connect muscles to bones. And then you have, so when the doctor hits this tendon, it's going to pull on the muscle and cause it to stretch. Now, deep inside your muscles, you have stretch receptors, and those are stimulated when when this muscle contracts or moves. And you see these are the nerves going to and from. This is your spinal cord here. So this would be your control center. We're going to fill that one in first. The control center is always going to be your brain or spinal cord. In the case of a reflex, it's a spinal cord. So when the doctor hits this tendon, it's going to stimulate these receptors, these stretch receptors. And since this is involving sensing and not moving, this first go round, this is going to be your sensory receptors right here. The sensory receptor is going to send a message along this blue nerve. It's not really blue in your body, it's just for the picture, but it's going to send information to the spinal cord. This is a sensing in the outside, so you've got to send the message to your brain so it knows what to do with the sensation that it's getting. So this is called the sensory neuron here. So the sensory receptor stimulates the sensory neuron. It's sensing the stretching that you're doing by hitting this tendon. It sends the information all the way to your spinal cord, which goes to your brain. The brain says, oh, I need to move appropriately. There's another movement that comes as a result of the sensing. It's going to send that impulse down the moving neuron, which would be then the motor neuron. And it's going to stimulate this muscle that's the back of your leg. Which muscle is that called? Yes, that's your biceps femoris, or your hamstring is what we call it. And it's going to cause this muscle to contract, which makes your leg kick out. That is the effector because it's causing an effect. So the neurons are named according to what they're doing. This neuron is sensing something from this receptor. So it's a sensory neuron. It sends information to the control center where your brain and spinal cord make a decision on what to do. And it's going to send information for movement to happen. So that's why it's called a motor neuron going this direction. Notice the arrow. And so once it hits the effector organ, in this case, it's a muscle, that's going to contract and cause the leg to kick out. The effector organ can also be a gland. If you need to secrete a hormone from a gland, which we'll talk about in the endocrine system at the end of the unit, then you would have nerves, motor neurons going to glands. And whenever that impulse reaches the gland, it's going to cause it to squirt out its hormone or to release its hormone for it to do its job. So it's always about sensing first, understanding the sensation, and then doing something about it with movement, either movement of a muscle. This is a skeletal muscle, but it also involves heart muscle, your breathing muscles, or glands. Now, this is an involuntary response. You cannot control. This is what it's called a reflex. A reflex is an involuntary automatic response to a stimulus. There are other reflexes, like whenever something touches your eyelash, you automatically start blinking because that's your body's way of protecting your eyes from something coming at it. When you touch something very hot, what is your first instinct to do? You can't control it. Yeah, you touch it and then you kind of bounce back because it hurts. All of these reflexes are protective mechanisms. They protect you from dangerous things in the environment or falling or those sorts of things. So reflexes are involuntary responses to a stimulus, and they are typically protective responses that help you maintain homeostasis and not get injured. So this is all I'm going to really cover on the spinal cord and peripheral nervous system. So this is the end of the video notes on the nervous system itself. The next time you have video notes will be on the special senses, your eyes, ears, tasting, and smelling. So I will see you at that point.